Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and in this video we're going to be talking about David Bowie's much divisive album Never Let Me Down from 1987. So this is going to be an interesting one because obviously that album, a lot of the fans hated it, and then it was reissued in 2018 by producer Mario McNulty, and they put out a new version. Now, I can't attain the original 80s recording. You can't attain this. Like on Spotify, even when it says 1987 version, it still says remastered. So I think the only way you can listen to this album is the remaster. So I can't actually go back and compare the 2018 version with the 87 version. Obviously the songwriting is intact, the lyrics are intact, the approach is intact. It's just that they changed the production. I feel the original version was apparently very drum machine heavy and very overproduced. And what Mario McNulty did is went back and made it more a live sounding rock album. One of the main criticisms you could levy at this album, which is a valid one, is that Bowie always used to be a leader. He used to be influencing the sound of the time. But then he went on in his later stages of his career, maybe starting in the 80s, to just make stuff that sounded like everything else. And that is a valid point. This does just sound like 80s pop at the time. People could have done it, but Bowie delivered in the genre. So while it's not a wildly ambitious project, it's still good because David Bowie's great. So he executes the genre well. It's just Bowie took a few years of just making the music he wanted without pushing himself. And I feel like Bowie probably punished himself for not thinking outside the box with Never Let Me Down. But sometimes it's fine to just make a solid rock album.
The old Bowie, you know, he's sold out. I don't begrudge any artist for getting an audience. I'm sorry, I never found that poverty meant purity. That's rubbish.
The album starts off with Day In, Day Out, and this was the lead single. Lots of spectacle to this song, a fun pace, a melody. It's catchy, it's choppy, it's jarring. It does sound like a lot of stuff at the time, and it's not creative, but it's a blast of a song. It's fun. Like, doesn't have to necessarily be creative just because Bowie's known for being creative. You can just have fun on a song sometimes. Lyrics actually about homelessness. Now the thing is, you listen to this song and on surface level it just sounds like a jovial, fun pop song. This is why I think Never Let Me Down is also a bit underrated, because the lyrics actually mean more than a lot of people probably thought. This is a song about homelessness, a song about a lost, struggling woman who can't get anywhere. It's about alienation and desperation. There's some really sad lyrics on it. She was born in a handbag, love left on a doorstep. What she lacks is a backup, nothing seems to make a dent. That's really sad, and there's lots of hopeless lyrics on this song. And so while this is a song that sounds really fun and sounds really happy, it's actually a song with some more thought-provoking lyrics, and Bowie was very passionate about the homeless cause at the time. So, you know, you're already starting to peel back the layers of Never Let Me Down, and you see that there's more to it than just what people thought, which was just, they just heard what the song was like. But if you examine the lyrics of Day In, Day Out, there's a lot more to it. And I really like the song anyway. I feel like it's just one of those earwormy songs.
I'm there, trying to pay her rent. That's the kind of protection for everyone is shouting about.
The second track is Time Will Crawl. Now this was the song that created Bowie's desire to redo the whole album, because obviously he passed away before he was able to do it. But while he was alive, he did remix this song Time Will Crawl because he felt like it was a great song on the album that had more life in it. This is a fantastic song. It has such drama to it, such deliberate pace, such a doomsday feel to it. The lyric "Time will crawl till the 21st century lose" is an incredibly bleak and crazy line. Bowie was writing about, you know, the destruction of our planet, Chernobyl. He was really exploring stuff. So again, you know, there's people did say that Never Let Me Down was an empty album just trying to capitalise on the trends of the time, but I don't think they listened to the lyrics. I don't think they examined it at all. The verse melody, the whole da 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 da. There's just a building tension throughout this whole song, and Bowie almost sounds dismissive of the human race on this song. He kind of delivers it in almost an arrogant way, like he's looking down on us and the direction we're going. It just feels like the song's carrying on, going forward and forward and forwards, and like the human race is going forward and forward with an agenda and a plan which probably isn't the best. It's a nihilistic sort of song, but it's still very catchy. There's a great use of saxophone and instruments and drums, piano, create a lot of tension, inevitability. It's a great song, but it's still also just a fun pop element to it as well. So it's a very listenable song. I love Time Will Crawl, you know, that chorus as well, just repeating Time Will Crawl is so daunting. Like, the whole thing about this song is just incredibly looming over you, but at the same time it's very fun. I think it's definitely one of the highlights of Never Let Me Down, and definitely the song that set the wheels in motion for remastering the whole album. And, you know, good, because this is a great song.
For a guy who doesn't like to play it safe, though, as the audience gets larger, it must be harder to take those chances.
Well, I think if I were sort of a more cautious person, it would be difficult and a bit sort of claustrophobic, because I would now feel that I shouldn't do things that were maybe quite as artistically dangerous or off the wall as I would have done before. But actually, I find it I feel a bit naughty about it, because it means that I can do really what I want to do to a large audience.
The third track on the album is Beat of Your Drum. The verse reminds me of Labyrinth. This literally reminds me of the songs he was writing on the Labyrinth soundtrack.
It's gone, wasn't too much fun at all, but I'll be there for you as the world falls down. Only to go, colors may fade, the seasons may change, weather blows, but you still leave a mark on me.
I thought it's this kind of, you know, children's movie fantasy type verse, and then it just jumps into this pop rock chorus. So on this version, apparently they've enhanced the guitar and the drums just to make it like a really live sounding song, and it does really work. It's a poppy, chirpy, dancey chorus. It's Bowie stepping his foot into what everyone was doing and delivering, and just, but maybe not blowing your mind. But I can't help getting energized by the song. It's a very just fun sound. The next track is Never Let Me Down, the title track. I don't really like this. I feel like it's a fairly bland and wet song for Bowie. The sentimentality for me doesn't really work. It doesn't hook me. It's a bit of a boring feel. The chorus is very disappointing and ordinary. And this is where Bowie, doing the 80s music at the time, sounds throwaway. He doesn't sound at home on this song. It just sounds like filler. I don't really like the song Never Let Me Down. Thankfully, things pick up with the next track, Zeros, and this goes with the real live feeling Bowie was going for. There's crowd noises on this song. It's a very stadium feeling song. Very happy and bright melody. A song about rejects being celebrated. You know, what more can you ask for from the king of the rejects, who made it to the top and is trying to elevate all the other nutters. There's also a great vocal performance by Bowie. He sounds overjoyed to be singing this song. I know that it's one of his favourites of the album at the time. Tonight the Zeros are singing for you. What a beautiful line that is. It's a nice freedom and a nice appreciation and happiness to this song. Unity running throughout.
I had a terrific block after the Let's Dance thing, because I didn't know where I was. The whole thing was so overwhelming to have that kind of acceptance. I really had to steady myself to find out, hey, what do you want to do? Do you just sort of want to capitalise on that and do all that stuff again, and sort of be sure that you keep that audience, or why don't you do what you really want to do, and you might lose some of your audience, but you're going to be happy.
Glass Spider is the next track on this album, and it is wonderfully weird. And not weird in like the Hunky Dory or Ziggy Stardust or any of the other albums. This is quite creative for this album. People kind of ignore this when they talk about how bland Never Let Me Down is. This is actually very different to pretty much everything Bowie has ever done. You know, it's characteristically bizarre with this odd opening spoken word by Bowie. And then there's a frantic feeling running throughout, but a great sound, the drums and instruments. Again, this album was very drum led, and I feel like that's probably what they did when they went back and did the remaster. They've enhanced the drums a lot. I've heard it with drum machines a lot on the 80s version. And when I think about it, these songs with drum machines probably would have felt a bit boring, to be honest. The drums add a lot on this album. Bowie's voice has different sides to it on this song. Sometimes he gets aggressive, then he gets haunting, then he gets quiet. You know, Bowie's vocal performance on Never Let Me Down is incredible. He sounds so inspired. He really sounds like he believes what he was doing. I feel like where it went wrong for Bowie was he took his foot off the gas when it came to the production, and he wasn't happy with it. But vocally, it's a great Bowie performance. I can't fault his singing at all. Sadly, we have got another bad song next. It's Shining Star. It sounds very unnatural for Bowie. It's an odd melody, but not in a good way. It's just annoying. And it almost Prince-esque, this song, and just feels out of place on the album. You know, Glass Spider was an experimental track, but it's, you know, it managed to get away with it. Whereas this is an experimental track in the realms of Prince, and it's just too much of a leap. And it doesn't work for Bowie. He doesn't sound comfortable doing this sort of song. I just not a fan of Shining Star. But you know, again, the voice isn't bad. I just don't feel like it's a song Bowie should have made. I just feel like the melody's all over the place, and it's just the whole thing is dodgy. But thankfully things pick up yet again with New York's in Love. I love this song. It's an infectious song, I think. It's a big bundle of fun. This is Bowie sarcastically taking a look at the big city, at New York, kind of looking down on it, kind of being cynical, but having a blast with the instruments. The whole song sounds like a spectacle. You get the real imagery of New York at night throughout this song. There's a lot of you know, swagger to it, and celebrity feeling and party feeling. It captures the big city feel while also being very cynical about it in the lyric. I love the lyric New York's in love with the long blonde hair and the big green eyes. I just like that imagery. And it just feels like Bowie reveling in loving the big city, but also realising the futility of it, but also having a blast while he's there. And the next song is 87 and Cry, which is a scathing takedown of Margaret Thatcher's 80s Britain, which is great. I love a bit of Margaret Thatcher bashing. I love the punchiness of this song and the honesty. It's more gritty and dirty than the rest of the album, led by a very downbeat guitar. I love the pace and the melody. Bowie sounds great and very passionate. Bowie was very outspoken on the Thatcher era and, you know, the inequality of the time. It's a very heartfelt song, but at the same time, you know, it's still a pop song. You know, like a lot of the stuff on Never Let Me Down, it's stadium pop, but it's more when you look under the surface. There's just some great lyrical messages from Bowie and ideas. Like, he wasn't creatively shot. He wasn't out of ideas. It's just, I feel like maybe he took his foot off the gas in the closing stages of Never Let Me Down.
I'm still taking the chances. Most of those guys are living out in the suburbs and don't listen to rock and roll anymore. The early ones. I suppose there's a new lot out there.
Yeah.
I've seen them come, I've seen them go.
What do they look like?
The same guy.
And the final track on the album is Bang Bang, which is a decent cover of an Iggy Pop song. Some lively strings, some nice guitar and drums. It's a fun version where everything works. Bowie sounds at home on the song. His love for Iggy Pop shines here. And you know, the song really feels alive and vibrant. I enjoy the album, I do. Is it as good as Ziggy? Is it as good as Heroes? Is it as good as Hunky Dory? No, it's not especially creative, but there are little moments in there where it is. And it's a very catchy album, a very fun album. I enjoy listening to it. I find it infectious. And the thing is, I long one day to listen to that 80s version, but I just can't attain it. If anyone's got a link to the 80s version of David Bowie's Never Let Me Down, show it to me, because it's not on Spotify and it's not on YouTube. You can only get the remaster, so I'm only going by the remaster. So a lot of people might comment on this video and go, yeah, I know the remaster's good, but this album was diabolical in the 80s. And to be fair, drum machine led, this album would probably be a lot more weaker. But you know, just based on the remaster. Let's go by that. Let's look at Never Let Me Down as the remaster. It's quite a fun album, quite a good album.
Prince, Neil Young, anybody who ever sort of meant anything to me is a fan, and I'm a huge rock fan, is sort of in there. Plus, I think it also incorporates all the different styles of writing that I've had over the years.
So what do you guys think of Never Let Me Down? If you have never heard it, check it out, because it's worth listening to if you've always ignored it. The remaster will definitely be worth listening to, obviously. Please consider subscribing to this channel if you love talking about rock music. Click on another video on the screen now, and I will see you guys in the next video.